Hi, my name is Tabb, and I would like to present to you today my interpersonal communication project. Welcome to my world. First, I would like to state my overarching goal for my life, which is basically a combination of insights that I was able to gather from the various readings through the course, which can be summed up as enhancement of my interpersonal communication slash social skills to the extent that I am able to overcome obstacles which create filters pertaining to efficient socialization. Moving to next slide. Upon accomplishment of this overarching goal, I will be able to succeed with the process of enlarging the conversation, maintain more control and balance of my behavioral blend, become an effective level 1 listener, function and communicate under pressure opposed to conveying symptoms of the flat brain syndrome. So what is my behavioral blend? According to Mel Carbonell's Uniquely You Resources personality test, my behavioral blend includes a personality type of both dominant and submissive. My behavioral blend has impacted my conversation in many positive ways, which includes being outspoken and upfront, being honest, compassionate and empathy toward others, open-mindedness, self-motivation and initiative, being genuine, having a sense of integrity. Unfortunately, my behavioral blend has also contributed some negative attributes, which include assuming that listening involves solving everyone's problems, arguing as a means of proving the other person wrong, becoming easily frustrated, oversensitive to situations that really don't involve me, inadequately addressing conflict, being consumed and overly concerned with what others think or expect of me. Moving right along. Next slide. Potential barriers in my interpersonal context. Allowing internalized thoughts and feelings to dictate how well I listen to others, resorting to all or nothing thinking, forming opinions of others based on past experiences and personal biases, placing unrealistic expectations on myself as well as others, failing to accept people for who they are and assuming that I could change them. Moving right along to the next slide. Okay, so the question would be, Kalina, how are you going to deal with these barriers? My answer to that would be working diligently to move from a level 2 and 3 listener to a level 1 listener, which would entail listening without being judgmental or critical of the speaker, improving communication and social skills by distinguishing, between personal choices and respect for others. Using verbal feedback by asking what, when, where, how, who, and why as a means of preventing befuddling. Moving to next slide. How about the all or nothing thinking? My answer to that, grounding of my identity, becoming aware of my identity issues, accepting the not so good about myself, even if it makes me feel uncomfortable, realizing and knowing that it is okay to make mistakes, being honest with myself and the complexity of motivations, learning to incorporate new information into my identity in ways that are conducive and healthy. Next slide. Okay, so the question would be, how about the opinions formed from biases and past experiences? My answer to that would be dealing with the here and now, meaning what's in front of me opposed to what's behind me, communicating the underlying meanings and stories behind my opinions, biases, as far as with those who may be affected by them, learning to distinguish between my opinions or conclusions as opposed to the actual truth or facts, recognizing when I am stereotyping, making snap judgments or inferences. Moving to next slide. And how about those unrealistic expectations? I am going to accept others for who they are as well as their contributions to diversity, meaning that I would consider diversity to be an opportunity toward learning, becoming knowledgeable of personal biases and prejudices, while still conveying an attitude of acceptance towards myself and others. Talking and listening in ways that demonstrate appreciation for others' uniqueness and unmeasurability. Next. Give me a second, please. Okay, so I hear what you're saying, but I know you still think that you could change the world, Kat. And how about you may be right. However, this is an area that I strive to continue to address in my interpersonal arena. In other words, my own personal lifetime project. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It just is. One thing I will say is that I will continue to strive toward the process of acceptance of myself and others. Moving right along. Identification of internal noise pollution, in my opinion, would include lack of self-confidence, just at times, depression, fears and anxiety, frustrations and anger, preconceptions and misconceptions, personal insecurities, thought experiences, as Peterson would call them in his text. External pollutions, that would be the next slide, I apologize. Conflicting behavioral blends and personality types of others, ignorant neighbors, flat brainitis of others, family members, environmental stressors, finances, non-supportive ex-spouse. Notice I said ex. And my solutions to these internal and external pollutions would include, first and foremost, acknowledge the basis and underlying cause of the problem. As it pertains to fear, consider the worst possible scenario, acknowledge it, and then consider or ask myself, what would I do next? Own my own thoughts and feelings, recognizing how they impact the ways in which I respond to others and situations, refraining from the art of defending myself, but actually learning to utilize a deviant behavior. My plan of action, I love this one. I plan to acknowledge my own interpersonal communication deficits as well as ineffective listening patterns. In doing so, I believe that this will enable me to enlarge my conversation with others. I've come to recognize that past hurts and unpleasant experiences have influenced my conversation significantly. Therefore, I know that I have to learn forgiveness, which has always been hard for me. Forgiveness, as it states in Neil T. Anderson's The Bondage Breaker, is forgiving others for your sake.